Hi, if you don't know me already, I'm Kat from the Wild Alaskan Company recipe team. We're going to make a very easy snack. It is onigiri. So these are Japanese style rice balls filled with whatever you like. Seeing that most of us here are fans of wild caught Alaskan fish, we're going to fill these with some Alaskan fish and actually even some crab. I went ahead and made an onigiri. The Japanese pronunciation is more like onigiri, but we're going to say it like an American, onigiri. This is just a rice ball stuffed with a little bit of filling. I actually put some crab meat in here and then rolled in a little sheet of nori. This is a really nice snack or meal that is very, very popular in Japan. At the very basic, these are rice balls. They are also called omusubi. They're always made with short grain rice, hence the stickiness, what you might call sushi rice. Typically, they're filled with a tasty, salty filling, although you don't necessarily need a filling if you don't want to. Of course, we want to fill them with something. So like I said, I wrap mine in nori, but sometimes you'll see them rolled in something like sesame seeds or furikake, which is kind of like a little mix of sesame seeds and seaweed and other ingredients, just to give the onigiri a little bit extra pizzazz and spice. So this is a quintessential on-the-go food in Japan, very popular. There are no utensils required. When I have onigiri, I kind of eat them like a little muffin or a croissant. A sandwich is probably a more apt analogy to what these are, but because they're so handheld and cozy, it feels more like eating a baked good. That's like more of the right comparison. So they're just like really adorable and fun to eat because they're just really cute. So the word onigiri became officially part of the Oxford English Dictionary this past summer, but this is actually a food that dates back to at least the 11th century in Japan. I believe there was like evidence of remnants of something like little Japanese rice balls in archaeological remains. So that's pretty cool to find a history that goes back that far. For you today in your own home, why make this? Because mostly it's fun. If you happen to have some cooked seafood in the fridge, like leftovers that you're not really sure what to do with, and you want to try something new, all you need to do is make a pot of short grain rice. I made some in my rice cooker earlier today, and then you can use that rice to make yourself a little onigiri snack. So what I'm going to do today is make onigiri with some Pacific halibut, a flaked fillet. I just seared this up in the pan. You can just flake this up into smaller pieces. You just want to break it up into smaller pieces because each of these little rice balls is probably just going to take about a tablespoon of filling. You don't want to add too much because then it'll fall apart. Got just plain Pacific halibut in here. It can be seasoned any which way. If you have a fillet that you're not, cooking to order for yourself right now, you can use anything because whatever flavors you're putting in here are just going to make for a tasty filling. There really are no rules. To this, what I like to do with the filling is kind of make something that binds together really nicely. So I'm going to add in some Japanese mayo. This is like a Kewpie mayo, maybe a couple tablespoons of this in here, and we'll see how that is looking. Essentially making a little like fish salad almost with this mayo. And to do this, you could kind of stop here if you wanted. You just want to have a really nicely seasoned, tasty filling. But to spice it up, any kind of hot sauce would work for this. I'm going to use, this is like a Korean chili sauce. It's a little sweet. Just add some of this to the bowl. And this is all to taste. If you don't like spice, skip it. But I think it adds a nice flavor to this. All right, so that looks like a really good consistency, and then giving that a little bit of a taste to see if it's to my liking. From here, you can add a little extra salt, you can add pepper, whatever you really want to do to get it tasting really nice. I think I actually am going to add a little bit of salt to this, so give it a little extra punch. And then the fun and somewhat challenging part is actually using this as a filling and making an onigiri. Like I said, I made a pot of rice earlier. I just have it covered. I took it out of the rice cooker itself because you don't want to be handling the rice right out of the pot because your hands will not thank you for that. So I just have a pot of rice here that I have covered so that it doesn't dry out. And then to this, I have a bowl of water that is slightly salted. It's just like 2 cups of water to a teaspoon of salt just to give it a little flavor. I'm gonna wet my hands, grab maybe about a 1/4 cup or so of rice to start, just like this. Make a little indentation and then drop in some filling. That should be good. Yum. On top of that, we're going to add another scoop of rice. Re-wet your hands as needed because the rice will stick. And then this is the, like I said, fun / challenging part. You want to start to compress the rice into a ball. It's okay if the filling is spilling out a little bit. It doesn't have to be perfect. The triangle shape is a very classic shape for onigiri, but you can make it into just a ball if the triangle is giving you too much trouble. There's nothing wrong with different shapes. They actually make molds for these so that you can just put it into a perfect triangle and compress it without having to wonder why you can't make a triangle with rice with your hands. Just shape it as you go into this nice form. And then to this, the classic thing to do is put a strip of nori on it. Sometimes you'll see the whole onigiri wrapped in nori, but you can just do something like, I have these little sheets of nori cut. Nori is roasted seaweed. The Japanese style of them, they're a little bit thicker than something like seaweed snacks, which are more brittle, but you just want to add it to the rice ball, kind of like this. So you can wrap these any which way you like. You can have thicker pieces, thinner pieces. Let me make another one here. So I'm going to do the next one with the Dungeness crab meat, just the pre-picked crab meat. It's a little bit drier in texture and fluffier in texture than what you'd get from the snap and eat dungies. This is a really good candidate for turning into something like a crab salad. The mayo will add moisture to this, give it a little more of that like luscious texture. This is gonna maybe take a little bit of this. I have this red chili pepper paste that has grated daikon in it that someone gifted me, and I haven't used it yet, so I feel like this is a good opportunity to use a Japanese chili paste. That's just gonna go in to the mix as well, and it's incredibly spicy. I just took a little taste of it, but that's perfect because I love spice. This should be a good consistency. All right, so back to the rice. I have to re-wet my hands. So we got our scoop of rice like this. Just start to give it a little bit of shape in your hand. Make some space in the center for filling. Try not to get a big glob of chili pepper in there because, like I said, it's spicier than I expected. That should be able to stay in here. Another scoop on top. And let's say for this one, I'm going to roll it into a ball. I'm just going to give up on the triangle for this one, and we're going to do a nice round ball. Maybe I'll flatten it out a little bit so it's more of a circle like that. And we can do a strip of nori to something like this, or I have other options here. So we can take something like sesame seeds. These have a really nice texture. These roasted sesame seeds, you can just do a little strip like that on top of it. You could go all the way around. However you like to do this, it's just going to be really fun and pretty. So I'm starting to build out this little platter of onigiri right here. This is why it's a nice one to share, because it really looks like you have almost like that feeling of when you're looking at a box of chocolates and wondering what's inside of each of these things. If you don't want to leave it a mystery, you can always put a little bit of the filling on top to kind of mark the onigiri as that item. But if it's just you and some friends, you can leave it kind of a mystery. So I'm gonna fill maybe one more of these and do another fun shape. For this one, my friend makes this like spicy furikake. So I'm gonna maybe just sprinkle this on top. Let's see how that looks. Looks a little crazy, but that'll just be my little one for that. If you're making a batch of these, I would recommend covering them with, a tea towel or a lid, something to prevent them from drying out if you are going to leave them out at room temperature, just to make sure that they stay a really nice consistency. In terms of food safety, you do want to eat them within 2 hours of making them, just because you're leaving something out on the counter for 2 hours at a certain temperature, there is that increased risk. But if you make these, pack them up, take them to the park, assuming you can wait to eat them, that's a really good option for something that you're taking with you on the go. If you don't want to fuss with, although the fussing part is the fun part, if you don't want to fuss with onigiri, like shaping them, what you can do is make yourself a little bowl of rice. And this I would recommend eating hot, a little bowl of steamed rice, and then you can just put some filling on top and make yourself a nice rice bowl. This is just crab right on top of rice. To this, then you can kind of add whatever you like. I would add some more of these like furikake sprinkles on top here. You could add something like fresh scallions, cilantro, kimchi, and you have a nice little hot meal. This, like I said, I would recommend eating hot because it'll just be really nice and tasty. But these, room temperature. And then any leftover filling that you have, you could go ahead and store that in the fridge to eat the next day. If you're making fried rice, you could just fold that in right at the end, whether it's the crab or halibut or any variety of fish. If you're adding nori to the onigiri and you're planning to eat it right away, they'll stay nice and crisp. If you are not sure about when you're going to be eating it in the next hour or so, you could always hold off on wrapping the nori around the onigiri, and that'll keep the nori nice and crisp. If you leave it on there, like right now, it's like soft. It's not soggy per se, but some people like a really crisp, crunchy nori on the exterior of the onigiri, but you're only going to get that if you're serving it like that as soon as it's made or wrapping it as soon as it's made. I highly recommend trying this with whatever species you have in your freezer. It doesn't have to be halibut, it can be any white fish. It could even be salmon, but there are no rules. Anything can go in there as long as it's something that tastes good to you with rice. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Next week, we've got an easy pasta salad on deck using hot smoked sockeye salmon. It's tasty, simple. It's a recipe you can stash in the fridge and eat cold. Regardless, I hope to see you either next Wednesday or another event in the future. Thanks so much. I hope you learn something and get to try these one day.